Hiya, this is the Auditability Challenge from Fund 7's closeout report. So first, a few basic facts about the challenge. The challenge budget was $100,000, so it was quite small. The number of proposals submitted was 23, and of those, 8 were funded, and 4 have been completed and closed out as of March 2023. The Auditability Challenge team in Fund 7 was Stephen Whittenstall, Joe Allen, Vanessa Cardui, Torsten Potterbaum, Eric Helms, and Naveed Omani. First, the key challenge metric was the number of proposals audited. But in practice, most of the proposals in the Fund 7 Auditability Challenge were actually about building systems and platforms and methodologies to audit proposals with, rather than actually doing the auditing itself. So proposers were working on the hows and the whys and getting the groundwork in place. So technically speaking, you could say that quite a lot of the proposals that were submitted in Fund 7 auditability didn't actually meet that key metric. However, with hindsight, as a challenge team, we can see that at this stage, that's exactly how it should be. And that was the right thing. So this metric probably should have been worded a little bit differently, but it's brilliant that PAs and VPAs and voters alike could all see that the proposals that were coming in were going about it in the right way, and they didn't penalise them for not rigidly sticking to that particular metric. The key challenge aim, though, that was a lot better and a lot clearer. It was to make the auditing of funded proposals efficient, distributed, and transparent. And that aim was addressed in 2 key different ways. First of all, by building tools, and there were 5 proposals that basically did that. And secondly, by building thinking about audit, and there were 3 proposals that basically did that. And if you have a read of our written closeout report, you'll be able to see more detail on each of those proposals. Because there's only 8 of them, we've been able to address each of them individually. There was a second challenge aim as well, which was that there should be different audit approaches for different challenges. And that's a really important idea, but in most of the proposals that were put in Fund 7, they didn't really feature that much. So maybe it was an idea that it was too soon for it. It was certainly addressed much more in the Fund 8 Auditability Challenge. Here's a little picture, a little pie chart of the state of proposals, but this diagram is from January 2023. So you can see that there are 3 at that stage that were closed out and finished, and there was 1 that was finished, but the closeout report was still in progress. That has now been closed. Then there were 3 that were stalled because they were facing insurmountable blockers. And then there was 1 that had just disappeared. The proposal team never gave proof of life and has claimed no funds, which is interesting and a bit weird. Okay, so some key learnings for us as a challenge team. Those 3 projects that were stalled, first of all, it was due to issues beyond their control. For example, they were waiting for input from IOG about something, or there were delays due to the development of the Vassal hard fork, which just came too late to help one particular project. And for one, it was about testing a new audit approach, but because they were not seen as official by proposers due to the centralised nature of audit in Catalyst, it didn't really get done. We feel that a better funded challenge team could possibly have liaised between these proposals and IOG, so perhaps they could have closed out with the work that they did achieve, which was really good and really interesting. But unfortunately, challenge teams at this point in Fund 7 didn't have a lot of funding, so neither we nor IOG nor anybody else have the resources to work with those proposals to get them closed out with the work that they had done. There was one proposal, as we said, that never even gave proof of life. We have tried contacting them through IdeaScale and got nothing, and they never received any funding. Maybe they'd never realised they were funded at all. We'll never know, probably. But it's interesting that their proposal aimed to pilot something very similar to IOG's new-ish now, milestone-based funding approach. So perhaps if that proposal had been carried out, it could have given some useful background input. So this leaves us asking, do we need a system to allow orphan proposals like this to be taken on by another team and carried through to fruition? Then there were 3 projects that aimed to research and pilot new audit systems. Those worked best when they identified a small, engaged cohort to pilot new approaches with. But difficulties came when they tried to get a new approach adopted more widely. So this raises the question, do we need less centralised audit in Catalyst? A range of audit methodologies that people can choose from. What can we do to make sure that proposers who adopt new audit approaches will not be sanctioned? There was some worry from proposers who might have otherwise been interested in trying out and piloting these new approaches that were done by these projects, but they weren't sure if they would then suffer because they weren't doing the standard audit process as well. So was the challenge addressed or solved? I mean, this is obviously a question that the answer can never be fully yes, because no challenge can ever be completely and totally solved, probably. But broadly, yes, it was. It was the first time that audit had been funded specifically in a Catalyst challenge. So it was an important and a really necessary nursery challenge at that stage. It made audit issues much more prominent in the community, and it gave space for builders and thinkers to actually focus on it for a while, which was really important and useful. But then the limitations did show up as well. The lack of access to IdeaScale data was a problem for some of the proposals, and obviously it's absolutely right that they shouldn't have had access to it because of data protection. People who had signed up and given their information on IdeaScale hadn't consented to their data being used that way, so it's completely right that that should have happened, but it was a barrier nevertheless. Then there were problems of centralisation because proposal audit is so strongly led by IOG. So what about future directions for auditability in Catalyst? Well, obviously this was a Fund 7 challenge, so when we talk about future directions, we're talking about the future in the past. But nevertheless, for the future, what we did get was a Fund 8 auditability challenge with a bigger budget and more chances for proposers to think about and address auditability. And we also got an ongoing community of people who are interested in audit, both the challenge team members and the proposers and their teams. What we like to see for the future is ongoing funding for community ideation on audit. This really shouldn't be volunteer work. So we're thinking perhaps about the auditability and accountability group that Danny has been spearheading lately in the community. People's contribution to that probably should be funded at some point. And we'd like to see a decentralised approach realising the original challenge aim of taking different approaches to audit for different kinds of proposals. And we really hope that can come to fruition. It would be great if there could be a range of options for how to audit that proposals could choose from, depending on what kind of proposal they are. So thanks for watching.